WHISTON Radio, the only nuclear-powered radio station on God's green earth. I'm doing a program tonight. It's very special because it's more as it's a testimony of what a situation that is about to explode, as far as I'm concerned. My wife lost her half a breast 10, 12 years ago. Started drinking, combination of chemotherapy and drinking turned her into an angry monster who got increasingly more paranoid, delusional, and out of control. Police were always at my house because she was screaming drunk, and these were the words she would use. You are giving all your time to people in Pakistan and people in the South Bay, ghetto people, worthless people. Why would you want to do that when we should have? It's been my job for a long time to do what I do, which is run a ministry, a working ministry where I do give my time as much as I can to it. My wife got increasingly paranoid, lunatic, accused me of everything under the sun. Adultery beyond compare. Old people, young people, men, boys, everyone who came into my life that I counseled was a scumbag, not worth my time, not worth anybody's time, and on and on and on until the conflict got so bad that one night, I'm having a bowl of soup. I'd just broken my shoulder a week ago. I was struggling, I was having a bowl of soup, and there she was again, drinking excessively and going off on the fact that I was giving too much of my time to the world and to change my life. And in the end, she got this close to me. I couldn't take it anymore. I pushed her away. I said, get away from me. I'm going to call the cops if you don't stop. Oh, en contraire, my friend. She calls the cops. I told them I'd beat her up. The cops came. This new law, by the way, California Proposition 120, I believe it is, or 20, I'm not sure. It's a new law that says, in these situations, normally the cops would come and they would try to get his side, her side, he said, she said. In this case, the whole paradigm has changed to this. Someone is going to jail. The nut house, the outhouse, they're going to be separated, and it's down to the cop on the street who picks who it is. So if the cop comes to the situation as a proclivity toward men, that's, I believe, a lot of times that the man will get preference. On the other hand, if a woman cop comes and she has preference toward the women, the man's going to jail. And like a fool, I told the truth. I said, I pushed her away because she was in my face. That's the law. No matter what she did to me, I pushed her. I go to jail. I told them I had a broken arm. They yanked me up anyway. 2 women. Went to jail. I had no meds, no food, no bail, no glasses, no dentures. I couldn't read. I was delusional, and I fell off a bench in the jail cell and put a lump on my head that big. I was rushed to the hospital. 24 hours later, I was back in the jail cell. I was kind of okay. 2 hours later, in the same jail cell, on the same bench, I fell and put another lump on my head. This time, 2 sheriffs were flipping quarters to see if I could get up and crawl across that dirty, filthy, wet cell. And they won. No, I won. I crawled across. They said, get up, get up. I said, I got a broken arm. I can't get up. They said, go on, you can do it. Get up, get up. You're in jail. Tortured me, tormented me, till I came close to death. I fell again 2 times. Finally, they took me up to the nurse's station, and they told the nurse that I was a junkie coming off heroin, and I looked like it because the blood from my clothing was all over these orange shorts that they gave me, so I looked a mess. And the nurse believed them. So I'm saying, no, wait a minute, wait. This is not what happened. I'm not homeless. She said, well, we don't have any record on you. And I said, please look again. My medical records are here and everything. She finally found out and went, oh yeah, you are. Okay. That didn't help. She sent me back to the same torturing bastards. And I was down there with them again. And finally, I was on the floor, bleeding, and a friendly sheriff came in, a sergeant, and said, "That man doesn't look like he's long for this world." Rushed me to the hospital again. Another 24 hours, no food, no meds, no nothing. After a while, I don't know why I didn't die, but I didn't, and they sent me back again for the third time to the same torturers and monsters. And this time, they were going off duty, so it was like it wouldn't be them torturing me. The horror of that night and the horror of watching whatever else they were doing, having fun with the prisoners, it was a nightmare beyond belief. Finally, they isolated me in an empty wing, in one bed, a filthy, stinking, crusty, the whole building, by the way, is a filthy hovel from the 19th century. It looks wonderful outside, but inside, none of it's been touched in certain quarters, especially the intake. So I was sleeping like, I can hear all the screams of the prisoners and the insanity that was in the other wings, all through the jailhouse. And then a loud bang on my door, and I froze. And the voice said, "Mr. Graham?" I said, "Yes, you have been bailed out." I got out. My son in Los Angeles had heard, because my wife hadn't told anybody that I couldn't get bail. My son bailed me out, and that's what saved my life. I got outside of the jail and got a phone call. My phone was almost dead, and I got a phone call saying, "Hey, Reverend." And I said, "Yeah, this is Reverend." Said, "You better tell the truth about what happened to you in there tonight." And I said, "Who is this?" They said, "Don't worry about who this is. You're supposed to be a reverend. You better tell the truth." It was somebody who must have known the sheriff's inside and knew exactly when I was getting out, because it happened right outside of the jail. So it was a kind of an intimidation call. "You were not pushed down. Those sheriffs didn't push you down, did they?" I said, "No, they didn't. I fell down." They said, "Oh, yeah." Well, the guy was drunk, and he wasn't even listening to my answers. He was saying, "Well, you better not tell a lie like you're gonna." I go back to Coronado. The cops that arrested me saw me again. I was trying to get an ambulance, and the one cop who arrested me came over and said, "What's going on with you, Alan?" I said, "I'm not allowed to talk to you because you're the cop who arrested me. I don't want to get engaged with you because I've got an internal investigation going on." She kept harassing me. Finally, I said, "I need an ambulance." So the ambulance came and she left. That was the end of it, I thought, right? No. My wife found out where I was staying and rushed right into the room and grabbed me by the arm and said, "You're coming home. This has all been a mistake." And I said, just out of instinct, I said, "You know what? I'm not going to talk to you. You better leave it. I'm going to call the police." And she snapped and went lunatic on me and said, "You're coming home. You're coming home." I said, "You think this is a nightmare? Crawl a mile in my shoes." Turns out, when the cops did arrive, she'd filed another restraining order, and she was there to try to entrap me to get me back into the jail. And the cops said, "Did you touch her?" And I said, "No, it's on these security cameras." And he said, "Good, because if you had, no matter what you did, you're going to jail." I said, "Why is that?" He said, "Because she still has a restraining order and you don't. This is the insolence of office and the law's delay." Long story longer, my luck turns for the worse. And for the next 5 months, I'm living hand to mouth inside a U-Haul trailer. On the very last day before I'm almost called home to heaven, this is what happened. I couldn't find a friend in the world, and I was suffering the sin of pride. Couldn't ask. My son had guaranteed me that, "Dad, I'm going to get you a motorhome. I'm going to fix it up for you. You'll be all right. I'll fix your Social Security up." That my wife stole. left me penniless, looted the bank, threw everything that I had, including my watches, crucifixes, suits, tools, video, every single thing I had, out into the rain, out onto the backyard, into the trash can. So I started from scratch, so to speak. That didn't end there, because after struggling, trying to stay in a cheap hotel and sell some of my goods to keep on keeping on, it finally got to the very end. I was living in a U-Haul truck, and the cops surrounded me and said, "Hey, what are you doing?" I said, "I'm selling my stuff out of this U-Haul truck." He said, "Well, you've got to keep moving, you know. You can't just lay around." I said, "Okay, how often?" He said, "Every 72 hours, you've got to move your stuff. And by the way, what's that over there in the back of your truck?" And I said, "That's my bed." And he said, "Oh, you're sleeping here, are you?" I said, "Yes, I am." He said, "Well then, we're going to be knocking every 2 hours or 3 hours." I said, "Is this the law?" They said, "Yes, it is the law." So I felt, well, they want me to leave. Once again, the sin of pride. I'm not leaving my town of 59 years. I'm not being hounded out like some homeless person by the police and by my wife. So I find a place to put the truck where no one can bother me. I'm not going to say where, because I don't think the person to this day knows I was there all night. In the night, it started one hellacious rainstorm, and it just so happens there was a leak in the U-Haul. My goods, the last few things I had, were getting soaking wet. I was in a place I shouldn't be. I had to pee in a jar. I was running around with an umbrella and a mug. Feverish, upset. 5:30 in the morning, it stopped. I finally fell asleep in a fever dream. My patron saint, my idol, my heroina, as they say in Italian, Saint Teresa of Avila. I prayed to her because the little tiny nun suffered more agony than any bone cancer for all her life, or some horrible disease that left her in agonizing, crippling, arthritic pain. She managed to write scores of inspirational books. This little nun was my heroina because of this. One time, the Pope, this was in France, Avila, she ran a missionary, a nunnery, a convent, same way I do, with all the lower people of the earth, all the people who can't get a break anywhere. She fed them. I did. I got fruit from a fruiterer. I got bread from a bread maker. And I fed the down and the people who needed it. So St. Teresa said, when the Pope came, "Look here, you're doing all this wrong. You can't have these people in your room. You can't have them with you. You got to do a separation." And she told him this little story. "Papa, these people have 2 pennies, and one of them, those pennies, goes to buy your little red shoes. Now you get out of my monastery. I'll rent away. I say, not Rome." He left. She kicked his butt out of her monastery. This was my hero. I prayed to her. In the night, she came to me. I saw her dark hair. And she spoke to me with words that I couldn't hear, but I so felt them, like telepathy. And I heard her say, "Calling, calling." That's it. I'm being called home. And then I saw this sound like what old Catholics refer to as angel's wings, the sound of angel's wings. And then I saw this intense purple and blue light simultaneously with the same sound of boom, boom, boom. It was like a Buck Rogers movie or a science fiction movie, Star Wars or something. And then I heard the voice again. It said, "Calling, calling." I even tried to use a little humor. "Oh, the chapel bells are ringing." It's a big bell. It was a loud bell. And this fever dream, I was going to and fro. Am I here? Am I there? And I wanted to reach out and say, "Oh, this is the end. I'm just offering myself up." And then I remembered the tongues of fire from my days of when I was an altar boy, a little boy, and Jesuit priest, Father Dana, would tell me about the parted tongues of fire, the Holy Spirit, that they would descend. And I thought, well, the Holy Spirit, these blue lights, that's the way I saw it. That's the Holy Ghost coming to take me home. And I went like this, and I woke up to the loudest bell I'd ever heard in my life. Ring! And my ears were ringing like I was startled, woke up, it was morning. I looked down, my cell phone was ringing on the wet floor of the U-Haul, echoing all over the U-Haul. Grabbed the phone and said, hello, and the voice said, Al, I've got some really bad news for you. And I went, God, I'm going to swap you. I didn't say that, but I was trying to make light of it. And I'm drowning in this water. I'm still wet from the nighttime. I even made a joke. Isaiah 12:2, I think, says, as you pass through these waters, they shall neither drown you nor fire shall burn you. Or words to that effect. And I said to him, Isaiah, look here, I would have words with you about this drowning and this being burned up, and trying to make grim British humor out of it. Then the voice said, do you remember our friend that was going to come and stay in the house in Coronado? And we got it all ready for them, and the whole family going to move out here, and the house is all ready. I said, yeah. Well, she said the poor fellow had his leg amputated, and he's got to stay there. They can't move their family out here because all of their medical, amenities are there, so they were giving up the house. And it's yours. I haven't stopped crying since, because I went from to be a little vulgar. I fell into a vat of pig shit and came out smelling like roses. With the generosity of a single person. Anyway, saved my life. I'm on my feet now. I have a radio station. I'm doing what I should be doing all the time. I haven't been doing it. I'm back at it. 2 days before that, I stepped out of Starbucks with an umbrella. Yes, it was raining. It was St. Patrick's Day. I heard the same sound in my dream. So I'm going back in time before the dream came true. I stopped for that split second. I heard the angel's wings, and I continued on, had a coffee, umbrella. I'm gonna go across the street because the traffic stopped, and I can walk across to the median instead of going all the way around. I put my foot out into the traffic, a motorcycle comes whizzing by at 20 or 30 miles an hour. Had I not stopped for the angel's wings, I would have been corned beef hash on the diesel truck in front of me. 2 miracles. Boys. I have an orphanage in Pakistan. I found it a year ago. It's up and running now. They're ready to buy a cow, buy some chickens, and they're now self-sufficient after I put my help into it. And a lot of other people help too. Anyway, it's called Fountain Ministries. It's the passion of my life. And now I'm going to do it even more, because once they become self-sufficient, all I have to do, they raise their own money. Now I don't have to do that. All I got to do is promote it and make it work on a bigger scale. So to make a long story a bit longer, I get a call in the middle of the night. Papa, this is what the bishop over there calls me. He says, your teacher, the teacher Nazir, is teaching my children, the 12 orphans that we have. They're all ready to become doctors and lawyers, and it's a magical story. He's in bed in agony. The video's rolling. He said, Papa, help me. I'm dying. I need your help. In the most agonizing, awful, curdling screams. I said to Anil, what's happened? He said, his heart is failing, all his vitals and all of it. Oh my God. He said, please pray for me, Papa. So my 12 children and the bishop and his wife and anyone else who's there volunteering, the servants and the volunteers, I mean. We laid hands on him. I laid hands on him from here to Pakistan. And I'm telling you about Catholic prayers. They work. And you think that's a joke, and I'm just telling you Catholics are better. I don't mean that. I just mean, for me, Catholicism works in this time when prayers of intercession are needed. I usually call him my hero, Father Mike, and he does it from his bedroom. Well, he can do it just by looking at you. That's how wonderful a man he is. So we all prayed, and I gave it all. And I heard the kids in the background crying, and Nazir, our professor, was in agony. Finally, I said, if this doesn't work, rush him to the hospital. He said, okay, Papa, and I hung up. I went into fevered sleep. I woke. The next morning, the phone rang. The fella was sitting up in bed saying, Papa, the miracle worked. Started crying again. We all cried. They rushed him to the hospital just in case. The doctor said, he's a miracle man. Another miracle. 3 miracles. The Trinity. Hello? I never heard of even one miracle so clear. I got 3 in a row. So we're on a roll, and we're keeping it rolling. Because of the generosity of a single human who's a river to many people and shall be nameless. A river she is to many people. I'm alive today with help from a few other people along the way. I'm going to tell you a quick story about the 3 angels. The day I got out of jail, all I had was a cold stone floor of a shop to sleep on. Toilet that was yucky. I mean, a terrible, awful, agonizing sleeping on the floor. And I got out of jail and managed to go to the public showers, take a shower, and I came home and I was feeling lighthearted. I had a beer. I turned on the lights. I put some music on. I was gonna go to bed. I heard a knock at the door. And there were 3 women there who I'd met just recently, and they knew of the plight, and they came to see what was happening. They came in. I said it later. There were 3 bodyguard enforcement angels sent from my Father in heaven to give me the next leg up off the floor. They made my bed. They fed me. They soothed me. We put on music. We sang. I sang. We danced. We did an Irish jig. And we had a little dip too. And it was then they put me to bed and rolled out my mattress, put me to sleep, and left me and turned the lights out. And I felt the warmth of heaven and the presence of angels, and I tell you this. If you don't believe in miracles, don't. But if you do, there's great glory. And if not, you get popcorn. So take your pick. Here's the end of the story. Just recently, on Mother's Day, my wife went on one of her round-robin, hateful tirades of tweeting the most evil, awful, filthy lies about people to my family from 40 years ago. Unloaded on them, demanded that my oldest son give her money to support her because she'd just gotten her husband arrested and she had no income now. She had no one to help her. And she was demanding this Sunday, Mother's Day, she did the most vile, awful thing. I have a dear friend who was very, very ill, got the most wicked email. There's nothing I can do about the emails because I've decided I would never file a restraining order. I don't want it to go to jail, but I do want it to stop, and it's going to stop this day, because this is also a record of my offensive. Shakespeare said, there is a tide in the affairs of man which taketh not flood leads unto fortune. There's another great one. It goes like this: to be or not to be. That is the question. Whether it is nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles, and by opposing them, to die, to sleep. Aye, there's the rub. For in that sleep what dreams may come when we have shuffled off this mortal coil. 'Tis a consummation devoutly to be wished. So it's about take arms against the sea of troubles, and by opposing, end them. And I am ending them this day. Tomorrow, I go down to get the restraining order I should have gotten 6 months ago. It would have equaled out the field. I wouldn't have been suffering because she's been going on about these emails for the last 6 months. She has not given up her quest to get me arrested. And I just heard today from one of her alcoholic friends who is also a snitch about her, warning me that she is trying to get me arrested again. That's how desperate she is to punish me, and not only me, but the dear people I love. She sent this email on a Mother's Day, a deliberately calculated move to harass and harangue. So it is. I'm coming. I'm coming for you. And when I come, all holy hell comes with me. I mean heaven, but it feels like hell because I call on my Father this minute to send me down some bodyguard enforcer angels, and we are going after this monster to stop it against me and to stop it against these innocent people. So here we go. I wrote about the angels that came and helped me last night. And I want to recite it to you. A child of God lay prone on filthy gray concrete jail floors. His tormentors flipped quarters to see if he would survive the falls. Somehow he did. He vowed. He crawled. He decided in the middle of the crawl that these people were having fun and he might not come out of this. I crawled. I said, no matter what, I'm going to do it. My Father in heaven. Well, let's put it like this way. From the throne came a vengeful thunder, an awesome edict. He sent down 3 bodyguard enforcer angels to find me at my worst time, to soothe me, to help me get onto my knees, and I did. My Father in heaven saw fit to do that because he knew I needed it. And this time, I'm asking my Father in heaven to assist me to put an end to this evil. And the only way to do it is to take arms against the sea of troubles. And I say it again, I'm coming for you. And anyone who helps you, I'm coming. And it's not with vengeful anger, it was with absolute certainty that this will end. Not only for me, but for all the other people. And for your poor twisted soul, because you got to be in agony to be doing this hateful, awful campaign against innocent people because of your greed, because you wanted all of it. You didn't want 1 penny to go anywhere other than into your greedy pocket. so you could buy more booze. It ends. This is a reckoning. Make no mistake, this is a reckoning. Add up this side of the ledger, add up that side of the ledger, and at the end there's a bill to pay. And I'm coming for you. And I'm going to end it with a song. Oh, all the money that e'er I had, I spent it in good company. And all the harm I've ever done, alas, it was to none but me. And all I am, for want of wit, to memory now I cannot recall. So fill to me the parting glass. Good night and joy be to you all. To all the comrades that e'er I had, I'm sorry for my going away. And all the sweethearts that e'er I had, I'd wish me one more day to stay. But since it fell into my lot that I should rise and you should not, I gently rise and softly call, good night and joy be to you all. And the prayer. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti, Amen. Credo in unum Deum, Patrum omnipotentem, Factorum Caeli et terra, visibilium omnium et invisibilium, et unam sanctam Catholicam, et apostolicam ecclesiam, et una baptisma in remissionem peccatorum, et expecto resurrectionem mortuorum, vitur venturi seculi. Amen. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. Domine non sum dignus. Domine non sum dignus. Domine non sum dignus. Mea culpa. Mea culpa. Mea maxima culpa. The Spanish have a beautiful phrase, and I wish this upon everyone I love, including my tormentor. The Spanish say it this way: Los ángeles están contigo usted por la eternidad, which means even to you. The angels are with you for all eternity. If you believe, if you don't, you get popcorn. Take your pick. And there you have it, Al Graham signing off for the K-Pixie Radio. This is not only a segment for the radio station, but it's a testimony for all the honest world to see, and the lawyers, and the judge. And yes, they might say, oh, he's certifiable. He's been ranting now for 20 minutes. He must be insane. Yeah, insane for putting down a monster, putting back into its place, shining the light on the torturer and the tortured. And the great strength, once again, many times I went to church, many times I prayed, many times I asked God, why do I have to do this? There's always a reason, and it is my reason. I was living in holy hell with someone who thought what I was doing was next to evil, and made up lie after lie to make it even worse. Everyone that ever came into my life for me to counsel or work with, she ended up chasing away, screaming at them, doing alcoholic rages. No one would come near anymore. So I pray for you tonight. The great power of prayer that I've seen, and the miracles I've seen, and I see to this day, I do every day. I wish for you peace, but I also wish for you to understand that here we come. No more. Let it just pass. She'll get over it. She will never get over it. She will destroy. And now I'm afraid something tragic might happen. We have no recourse except to get a restraining order. That might work, it might not. Knowing her, it might just make it worse. And I pray it doesn't for her. Yes, for you, I pray for you. You are my wife of 35 years, 36 years. In the beginning, we did this ministry together until she got sick and decided that her life was over. She was disfigured. She had half of her breast. I didn't care. I still felt it up. I liked it. I imagined the rest of her breast was didn't matter to me, but vanity, beauty is, people look at it, if you're crippled, they do tend to look away from it, yes. But I want you to remember this. Ecclesiastes 8 through 13, you've all known it. There's a song even about it. To everything there is a season and a time for every purpose under the heaven. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to gather stones together, a time to cast stones about, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to rend, and a time to sow. You all know it. But I wonder if you know the very last line of that passage. It repeats itself. It's so powerful. It says, all is vanity. All is vanity. And that's what this is. Vanity. If you want to know something really profound, the voice behind that psalm is none other than King Solomon, the wisest man on earth. King Solomon. That's who Ecclesiastes is in our Bible. And I'm not a Bible puncher, but I know my stuff. I know what heals, and I know what can heal. And that's my focus from now on, because for too long, I've been trying to let a monster burn itself out. It's not going to happen unless we take arms against the sea of troubles and by opposing. And here we are. So with that, I'll say one final prayer. No, I might even sing one final song. Yeah, I think I will. No, I'm going to sing two songs. I'm going to sing one about my first wife, Anna, who I, to this day, never got over. She comes to me in my dreams all the time. In a way, I'm melancholy and sad, but also, I look back now and I'm going to sum it all up for you like this. I had to go through every single awful thing I had to get to where I am, because now I see. And that's where I'm going to hit you up with this. Amazing grace, how sweet that old sound that saved a wretch like me. You know I once was lost, and now I believe I'm found. I was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. Oh, precious deed on earth appeared, the hour I first believed. I said, amazing grace, how sweet that old sound that saved a wretch like me. You know I once was lost, but now I believe I'm found. I was blind, but now I see. When we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we've no less grace to sing God's praise from when we first begun. I said, amazing grace, how sweet that old sound that saved a wretch like me. You know I once was lost, now I believe I'm found. I was blind, but now I see. And now my last song, I mean it. It's about Anna, the love of my life. neither of us wanted to get divorced, but it was all about, if I didn't stop doing the Jim Morrison movie, then this is my father-in-law's edict. He didn't want the Jim Morrison movie to be told. That's another story. He said, don't worry, he'll come home as soon as he realizes that Hollywood won't work with him because he doesn't have the rights. If I don't give him the say-so, even though I did give him the say-so once and then took it back behind his back and let him go out and get the money and then tell him, no, he didn't tell us. We found out, someone said, you're being blackballed. The Admiral is not behind this project. We called him up and he said, oh, that's nonsense, honey. No, I'm with you. So we went back to work. We got another call that said, I'm warning you, if you go any further, your father-in-law will sue you. Anna calls him up, says, Dad, what is this? Are you sure you didn't tell anyone you're blackballed? He said, well, no, honey, I'm with you. I gave Alan my blessing. She pressed him. He finally said, okay, all right, honey, I admit it. But I was looking out for you, honey. I knew that if Hollywood got a hold of that production, they would make my son look bad. That's not the reason. He didn't want Jim Morrison's story to be told because he was jealous of him. Yes, Jim accomplished him. One night, $10,000 a night. That's what he was making. The Admiral was making $30,000 a year. And I don't think he ever acknowledged that, or could acknowledge that he'd warned his son a year before he became famous that if you do not go to the draft board, you're going to go to jail because I'm going to send the FBI after you because you'll become a draft dodger. Morrison went to the draft board, all right, but he told them he was gayer than a $4 bill, and the Admiral hit the roof. Jim disappeared, hid under a top for a year on a rooftop in Venice, ate out of a dumpster, hang around with a little gang that he had. And a year later, the Admiral's prediction was this: listen, son, you've just written me this letter that you're going to be a rock singer? Ha, ha, ha. You have no talent in that direction, so don't try it. Frank Sinatra took years and la, 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 la. 1 year later, he was #1 in the nation. The Admiral still would not acknowledge it. And one day, 10 years later, after Jim died, the news came on. It was a reprise of Jim Morrison's life. He made $10,000 a night, and the Admiral looked at all of us and went, yeah, well, that's only Hollywood money. It's green. So that's when I knew that the whole thing about, I don't want them to make a bad movie, how naughty Hollywood. No, he didn't want it told. He didn't want a good story told about Jim. He wanted to let him remain anonymously dead. He didn't want to investigate his death. I did. Found out that it was murder, as far as I'm concerned. And if not murder, his girlfriend Pamela, let's put it like this. He took some heroin in a club in Paris that she gave him. It was China White, as good as. 89% pure junk. It comes from Marseille. Unlike the junk that Pamela was using here in America. 50% Excedrin, Drano, and whatever else crap they put in it. When she got there, Havala, glory, she found the dream of her life. And she told Jim Morrison, this is the best sex you'll ever have. Well, he hadn't been having very good sex because he was an alcoholic. He would pass out. So he took the smack and he hated to inject it. But over there you snort it. So he snorted some. And before he hit the deck, he was dead. Bartender sent someone in, and the bouncer, and they found him on the floor. And Pamela rushes in and said, oh, he's fainted again. Which was true. He was always fainting, drunk. They took him home. Then she told this story. Jim and I got home, and he wasn't feeling well, so we went to bed. And in the night, he woke up. He said he really was feeling like a pain in his chest, and he wasn't feeling too good, so he wanted to take a bath. And she said, okay. And she helped him downstairs and helped him in the bath and put towels ready for him and went to bed and slept for 5 hours. And then all of a sudden, she woke up. This was a story to the police. And he was dead. Weep, weep, oh, weep. 10 years after his death, I got the crime scene photographs. I call it a crime scene because I didn't know at the time, but I suspected it. Sure, Jim Morrison was in the bath, a little bit of blood coming out of his mouth. His head was cocked to one side. In a cold bath, he was kind of getting bloated. But I noticed something. I never heard anyone say this before or to this day. But he was laying with his head this way. Did you ever take a bath with your head up against the faucets? No. He was placed in there, which is what you do when you want to try to revive someone. They concocted the whole story. Marianne Faithfull, the junkie dealer, the Count, Agnes Varda, the great film director, they were all in on it. They planned to say that that was the story. She woke up and he died, and they don't know what. A doctor came, no autopsy. She put him in a grave in 3 days. On the third day, he didn't rise again. And then it busted out all over. 4th of July, Jim Morrison found dead in a bathtub in Paris. The morgue was closed, so they couldn't take him there. So they put dry ice on him. All weekend he lay in the bathtub. I imagined it like there was a neon light flashing through the window, and all was visible out of the dry ice were his eyes, and the light hit them. I imagine poetically that's the way he ended up. She proceeded to rush back to Los Angeles and tell everyone and anyone, oh, Jim and I were husband and wife, and I can prove it, la, 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 la. She got all of her friends to fill out affidavits to say, yes, Jim and I lived over here and lived over there. She was 6 months short of having enough people or dates and times to make it. You have to live with someone 7 years to gain common law wife status. That's what she was going for. If she'd have just left it alone, she would have got palimony, but everyone else would have should. So a judge in Colorado, a liberal judge in Colorado, the whole system is more liberal there. He said, well, you're short 6 months. She said, oh no, Judge, we stayed here. She produced the hotel receipt. She stayed at a bed and breakfast for 2 nights. And then said, well, and he said, you stayed 2 nights? He said, yeah, but we stayed. We got an apartment. We stayed here. The judge said, well, I don't see anyone else coming forward here, so I guess you're it. She got common law wife status. She came back to LA. She cut out the family. She cut out the door. She cut out the lawyer. She cut out the record company. She got it all. The next morning, the same night, she overdosed on her own heroin, and the next morning, they found her with her legs up in the kitchen like a dead cockroach. There's an old Egyptian queen story. The wicked Egyptian queen gets rid of all of the king's relatives, his heirs, he gets them all killed. The old pharaoh was 99 and he was a bit senile, and she manipulated everyone out of the will, and she got it all. And the ritual in Egypt was that they would all lead a procession with the body into the sarcophagus, into the pyramid, and they'd bring all of his treasures and all of the gifts that he was going to take into the next world, and then they would all leave him and say goodbye. Well, all the servants and his courtiers and everyone else were leaving, and the queen was trying to leave, but these big eunuchs said, no, 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 you're going to stay here. And she said, what? And all of a sudden, the eunuchs left her, and the sand, the 2 huge blocks, 4, 5, 6, or 7 inside the chamber, all began to raise, and sand filled all of them in, including her. So the wicked queen was buried inside the crypt with the treasure and her old husband. And this is the way I liken Pamela. She got it all, but she couldn't spend a nickel in a tomb. All right, one last song. Joanna. I went away long ago, I said I must go, searching for the gold I already had at home. I stayed away for so long, but still she was strong, waiting for me just to come back home. But I roamed around from town to town, a mine for diamonds on silver sand, and still she'd wait with grace and love unbound. If I fell down, she was there, no doubt in her mind, that I would always wend my way back home. But I roamed around from town to town, a mine for diamonds in Coronado silver sand, and still she'd wait with grace and love unbound. When I decided I would end my quest and that's end, but when I returned, I found that she had gone. You'll never hold her close again, catch the wind or feel the rain. You'll never find one like your own first love. And I roamed around from town to town, a mine for diamonds on silver sand, and still she'd wait with grace and love unbound. You're never gonna hold her close again, catch the wind or feel the rain. You'll never find one like your own first love. You'll never find one like your own first love. Okay.